Hello and welcome to FGC Philosophy, where we level up inside and outside the virtual arena by talking about topics and having guests on the show that I think are important to talk about. So today I've got OcelotYouth, aka Ocelot, on the show. I've ran into this guy a few times now. I think Combo Breaker was the first time I met you in person, perhaps, but I've also seen you online via social media. You and I believe also your wife are both members of the FGC, which are really awesome. But nonetheless, he's got a new clothing line out. I wanted to get him on the show just to pick his brain, learn about his experiences, and know a little bit more about this person. So thank you and welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for thinking about me, dude.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what's funny is we just fought what was it, Monday or 2 Mondays ago?
It was last Monday.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's actually the first time I ever played you, even.
Yeah, I had thought about that because I knew you played historically Birdie. And I'll ask more about that in a second. But I know you played Birdie, but then you also had like a 2-man Vega, and then who was the last character? It wasn't Bison. Who was it? It was somebody else.
It was me as Birdie/Vega. Then we had another Vega player, and then we had Sebman, who is a Grandmaster Birdie. So we essentially had 2 Birdies, 2 Vegas. Okay. I was in the middle to see if I needed to use Birdie or Vega.
So I'll ask more about that in a second. But
yeah.
So the first question I always ask everybody is just, what brought you to the FGC?
Oh, geez. Well, I'm 34 years old, so I kind of grew up in the era where Street Fighter 2 hit huge. You know, I'm from that era where after school I would ride my bike to the mall and play Super Turbo on a really crappy arcade cabinet in like a tilt. And, you know, I've been in and out of it pretty much my whole life since then, but I took about a 10-year hiatus to play DDR competitively.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, you know, I still played fighting games pretty casually then. And then when Street Fighter 4 came out, I kind of got back into it, and I competed a little bit in Marvel 3. Nothing to write home about. But when they brought my man Birdie back for Street Fighter 5, that's when I came back full steam, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I played Birdie in Alpha 2, and he was just a terrible character. I played Birdie in Sodom. So when they brought Birdie back, I was really excited. So that's what brought me back full time into Street Fighter.
Yeah, it's actually interesting seeing so I've been playing since 4. I've played like every iteration, or at least the main ones, but very casually up until 4. And I really have just since the beginning, I know everything about, not everything, but I've known like the history of Street Fighter 5 for the most part. I've kept up to date with it, because even Street Fighter 4, I was like way behind when I got into it towards the tail end of Ultra. And it's so cool seeing like a lot of people who played a long time ago getting back into Street Fighter because of the character variety, I'll say, in Street Fighter 5.
Well, I'm like a big lore head, so like when I see a weird character like Birdie who never was really fleshed out, and they brought him back and they made him fat, so that's like, you know, that's like an immediate thing where like, all right, I have to see why this character looks like this. Not that like Street Fighter 5 is like super rich in lore,
right? No,
but it at least gives me something. You know, and I appreciate when they come out with brand new characters, like when Ed came out, or Colleen. You know, I hadn't seen Colleen playable. Stuff like that I can definitely see can bring people that wouldn't traditionally be into, hey, I'm going to play this game competitively, might pick a game up because they remember. That's why I think they should bring E Honda back, even though I hate the character. Characters like that and Blanca are pretty big for bringing in casual audience. It's like, I work in an arcade bar, and there's so many people that come in and are like, oh, you know, what do you do? What do you do besides bartend? Say, oh, I'm a Street Fighter 5 player. And the characters they immediately go to are like Blanca, E Honda, and Dalsum. Those are like the casual magnets, I guess.
I have to backtrack and ask about like competitive DDR. Like, can you at least tell me a little bit about like what that's about?
Yeah, I got into that late in high school, I think. I got into it through a program called Stepmania, which is essentially like an emulated version of DDR on a PC. You play with a keyboard. And I wrote step charts for that for a really long time too. I got into that first, and then I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. And then when I was in high school, Cincinnati finally got a DDR machine, and we had a pretty big community. I was kind of an asshole in that community. I was known for starting trouble in that community. But yeah, I competed in that. I was never really great, but I was always pretty good. I was nowhere near like best in the city, but I was definitely better than the standard person that would just get up and play.
Wow, that's super sick. I gotta say, like I've always loved DDR, especially the music that came along with DDR. So that's really cool that you actually had the balls to even like attempt competitive DDR, just because like I was a shy kid back then, so I gotta respect that.
We actually went and played yesterday.
Oh, nice, dude. That's
Yeah, still playing with my old knees cracking every time I move.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in my 30s and I definitely can relate to what you're talking about. So yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. It's the back for me. What, if anything, has translated from competitive DDR over to competitive Street Fighter 5?
The biggest thing is my reactions, because going from a game where you have to be, no pun intended, frame perfect on hitting notes on beat, like when you hit everything perfect or marvelous, as it were, in a DDR song, you get graded at the end of a DDR song. If you hit everything perfectly, you get it's called a triple A. And that, to be able to hit everything perfectly for a minute and a half to 2 minutes, like that's very hard. I was talking about that with Sarah, my wife, last night. Like that's it, being around that community and being around really good players and seeing that stuff happen often, it kind of desensitizes you to it. But think about that, like when you're keeping beat with a song that's like 150 BPM and you're hitting it perfectly for a minute and a half, minute 45, that's hard. You have to have very quick reflexes. And then going from that and then playing Marvel 3, that kind of built up my reflexes too. It definitely translates. It definitely translates to fighting games, rhythm games do, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now I'm glad you said that. Like a thought I've had a lot. Like I like to theory fight a lot. And so sometimes I think about things more than I get to do them, just because I have not put enough time into Street Fighter. But one of the things that I like doing is playing rhythm games, because I think it helps me anticipate. Like a lot of times the issue isn't my execution, it's the fact that I don't recognize the situation fast enough. And I think that if I familiarize myself with recognizing a situation often and also reacting to it at a high speed, then that's going to build that muscle memory where I can have those disciplined reactions. And that's the time not put in is what I think is the biggest issue. But I guess my question is, what do you think about that? Like, do you agree? Do you disagree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think playing rhythm games or just like games that require high dexterity, that definitely translates. Even if it's just a sense of like my fingers are used to moving faster, or my eyes are used to judging scenarios quicker. If I'm playing a DDR song and it's going at a 180 BPM and I need to know when to turn or something like that. Like it comes second nature after playing for so long, but at the end of the day, I'm still reading a situation. Eventually it becomes memorization, but I'm still reading a situation where like, okay, I have to turn backwards at this point, or I have to turn sideways at that point. That's the same as if you have me in the corner and you're going to you as a Fong player, going to go for a low and do an instant overhead. Like that's a situation that I can read quicker, I think, because of mental dexterity given to me by those games.
Gotcha. And then that kind of helps with, I guess what kind of helps that is having predetermined reactions to that situation. So one part of it is recognizing it, and the other part is having an answer to that specific situation. A lot of people may have one, but not always the other one. Myself included in that scenario or that group of people. It sounds like something this is like you're really, really passionate about. And I wonder if that had anything, like when you talked about being frame perfect, obviously that's the same name as the clothing line, but I just want to know that something along what you said just now inspire the naming of your company.
Sort of. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I was just looking for something really cool. Yeah. Basically, just what I was going for when I created that. I have a graphic design and advertising background. That's what I went to school for. Cool. So, along the lines of when I started playing Street Fighter 5, I was kind of convinced, like, okay, I want to get picked up, but I wanted to be picked up by a company that wasn't like a traditional esports sponsor. I kind of wanted to bust that open for the community where like I want to get sponsored by a clothing brand or something like that. Um, and I don't know, somewhere along the line, I was just like, you know what? I think I can just do this myself. Especially with design background and advertising background, like, I have the chops to design this stuff myself and at least get a little notoriety from it. I know that's kind of off topic.
No, go ahead.
But, in terms of the name, I was looking at pseudo related to fighting games, pseudo related to other games, because, that's Frame Perfect. That's not just a FGC term. You see it in speedrunning, you see it in DDR, you see it in everything else. I just wanted something that could kind of latch on to more than just one community, because I'm majority putting out fighting game shirts, but I'm also doing DDR shirts. I have a bunch of other ideas. I'm going to be doing some shirts for the Yakuza series soon. That's just stuff that I'm into and that I think fits the motif I'm going for.
A lot of people don't really, I guess, pay attention to or study the world of entrepreneurship. And honestly, I think in 2019 and 2018 and years before, like learning how to be an entrepreneur on top of having a day job or even not having one, just learning how to have some sort of real estate online to be able to sustain yourself is something that a lot of people don't even look at as a possibility. So they never even put effort into it, never make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a trait that's not widely explored in the FGC. I see a lot of content creators doing their thing, and that's great. I mean, I think that's really the future of how to get ahead in the esports industry, because not everyone could be Punk, not everyone can be Tokido, but I feel like there's enough money to be made in this industry in ways that aren't just playing and winning all the time.
I absolutely agree. Agree 100%. Like that's a topic I'm super passionate about, and it's something I've been trying to talk about for years. So it's really nice to just hear someone who has this mindset as well. I think there are definitely people. If you go back and look at Gutex, he has that mindset.
Absolutely, yeah.
But a lot of people, unfortunately, and I guess it's kind of a negative tangent, not so much a complaint, but just an observation that a lot of people just outright reject that kind of mentality of not finding a way to monetize yourself in a subject matter that you love. I love fighting games, but I also want to find a way to make it sustainable so that I can put more time back into it.
Right, exactly.
I think a lot of people that have that same mindset as us are viewed as people who, I guess the obvious term would be sellout. But that's a tangent. That's a digression. I do want to know, kind of the same question from DDR and Street Fighter is, what, if anything, has transferred from those to, you're still getting started, but it sounds like you have experience with marketing and stuff like that. But what has transferred to this specific, I guess, I'll say entrepreneurship towards apparel?
I think it comes down to the same, like recognizing patterns. I can go online, I can go on Instagram, and I can look at ads that pop up, and I can look at how many impressions that ad has, or I can look at, on Facebook, if I get a sponsored post about, some shirt company that I don't really care about, but it pops up and I can see that it has 1 share, 2 likes. And then I'll continue to scroll down my feed and I'll see another ad pop up and it'll be like 43 shares and 70 something likes or whatever. It's like, okay, what's the difference between these two things? Like cognitively picking out patterns, even in even in advertisement, it's easy to tell when somebody's lazily promoting something or lazily creating something as opposed to someone who has a passion and puts, time and effort and drive into promoting and advertising and creating. Because it's easy to just come up with an idea and make it, but to actually have drive to do it well and to follow up on it and stuff like that, like it's not everywhere.
How did you get your drive?
Well, where do I start? About 10 years ago when I moved to Columbus, Ohio, 13 years ago at this point, I worked in a job. I worked in the legal field as like a litigation specialist support manager or whatever. Basically what that is I just did grunt work for legal secretaries, lawyers, stuff like that. And I did that for 10 years and it sucked. You know, I eventually broke, and I was just like, I'm sick of getting yelled at by old ladies that like don't mean anything to me, and like I'm sick of getting yelled at for stuff that the people under me did that I didn't catch or that I let them do. Just dumb stuff. Oh, this image was scanned wrong, you know, and this messed everything up. I just got cussed out by too many attorneys in a 10-year span. And I just eventually was just like, man, I have to do something that I love, and I have to do it for myself. And spending 10 years in a work environment where, like, you know, I made good money, but I was just super unhappy for 10 years. I just know I never want to go back to that, you know. And if it's not me professionally playing Street Fighter and getting paid by a sponsor, then it's going to be me doing something in that realm and paying myself, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm a bartender, so I have pretty much freedom for a schedule. You know, I work late nights, home at 4 a.m, and then I'm up till 7 or 8 a.m, wake up around 3 p.m, and do it all over again. But it's nice to have daytime if I need to, where I can get up early and create, or I could promote my stuff, or I could play 6 hours of Street Fighter before I go to work. It's just definitely a different lifestyle, and I needed that, because it working a crappy job where, like I said, the pay was good, but man, it just beat me for 10 years, and I just know I never want to go back to that.
Yeah, most definitely. And it sounds like
Yeah.
you really created a situation for yourself where you can work towards the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a die on my sword type thing, where I was just like, okay, I'm going back. When I was in Cincinnati, when I was younger, I dropped out of college to get a job, and I regretted it, but I never really saw myself going back. And then I got this job in the legal field, and then like I said, I just kind of died on my sword. I'm like, I quit. I'm going back to school for design and advertising. That's what I care about, and sink or swim. You know, like if I fail out of school and I'm totally terrible at what I do, then I'll come crawling back. But I made it a point to not do that.
Respect. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess what lessons have you learned that you can kind of convey to other people that maybe want to at least start working towards their goal? Like, say they want this, but they have a job they hate, and maybe they have a good idea, but they just don't know how to make it happen. Like, what advice would you give that person?
I would not do it like I did it, because there were a lot of times where, I mean, thank God I have a supporting partner who, you know, also had a good job, because there were times where in the past, let's see, it's 2019 now, I quit that job in 2015. So geez, we're looking at 4 years now. There were times where, you know, I had $3 in my bank account and rent was due, and it was just lucky that I had a partner that could support me when I needed it. So I would definitely plan, and if I could do it again, I don't know that I would change anything, but I would definitely have some money saved when I did it. So I couldn't stress that enough. Plan a little more than I did, kids, because the past 4 years have definitely not been easy. But now I'm floating pretty well right now, so I'm doing well. But yeah, to anyone trying to get out of a terrible situation and kind of carve their own path, I mean, it's hard and it sucks a lot of the time, and it's going to suck for a while. But once you finally get that goal, it's so worth it. Like, even if I had only sold 2 shirts or 1 shirt with this company, I still would have felt like, okay, you know, I did the right thing, because this was my end goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I would still be happy. And even if I never even did anything with the FGC ever again, you know, I'm out of a toxic situation that I was in for 10 years. So that's a win-win to me.
Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate the people who are doing stuff like this, because, and let me know if you agree or disagree, but my opinion about this, like, so full disclosure, I work in the world of esports. Like, that's my day job. I do love it. I do like learning about like the professional side of gaming, but I think the one thing for me, like my personal lifestyle, is like competing and fighting games and getting better at that, being a commentator. Like, that's what I like to do with my time. and I want to see that community grow. And one of the cool things about the FGC that a lot of people don't, I guess they're afraid of losing, and some are sick of it, is that it is very grassroots right now. There are some, almost invitationals, where only the professionals go. Those things are still there, but we also have like street ball. That's what like the locals and like the major events are, how I would equate them to, I guess, sports. It's not a 1-for-1, but that's just kind of how I see it. But I love that, because then the more the individuals learn to be self-sustaining and also contribute to the FGC, the easier it's going to be to stay grassroots. But the less and less people that learn about this community, but also learn about entrepreneurship, or at least being of some sort of use within the community, rather than just, I guess, being a part of it, the better it's going to be. The more control we might be able to have, depending on obviously the publishers. But other than that, I think that we can help make the FGC better if we learn something that's useful and lucrative.
Oh, I agree. I think that's a skill that it's not only needed in the FGC, but it's needed in life in general. I mean, that's stuff that if you build a good portfolio of thinking, for a lack of a better term, and building a brand like that follows you for the rest of your life. That's not just related to FGC or esports. That can shape your job in 10 years. That can shape, the rest of your life pretty much. Like, look at Gutex. Gutex is a great example of that, where he is an entrepreneur, and we met him at Combo Breaker, and we cut it up with him, and he's an awesome dude, and he gets it, man. Like, I've talked to a few people, pretty much doing the same thing I am, and Gutex gets it. Like, he knows that, we're all, at the end of the day, we're all playing a game, but this game is bringing us all together, and you can make something out of that that's not just being the top 0.1%,
Most definitely. So I guess if you had to come up with an answer, no one has the right answer, but what would you say is needed in order for more people to acquire the skill set or the mindset of being a entrepreneur?
I think you just need to know what you want. I mean, like, what do you want out of this? Like you said, you want to build your community. You have a small community. You're trying to build that up. You want to play and get better and commentate. Like, you have an end goal. I think that's really important before you even start is, what's your end goal? Like, when I created Frame Perfect, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to milk the FGC out of some money because I had a funny idea for a t-shirt. It's, I want this to get to a point where I'm able to sponsor people that aren't given opportunities. You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest thing, I think, when you get started, is like, what do you want from this? If I only wanted to play Street Fighter and do okay at a local here and there, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I would probably be still in a crappy job and with no drive and just pretty much hating life,
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something I thought about while you were saying that is that I honestly think that same mindset that you're talking about of having an end game, I definitely think that applies to the best players in Street Fighter or any fighting game, honestly, too, is like their end goal is very specific and they've worked towards that. Like, because one of the issues that I noticed is that within my practice of Street Fighter 5, if it's sporadic, then I'm not going to be improving anything. But if it's focused and I have something that I choose, I can get better at it if I work towards it.
Yeah, it's like training, where like when I first started playing, and I was, not good because I was very much a very casual Street Fighter player for the past decade. And I sat down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice anti-airs. It's just like that. You focus on something to improve instead of just like you said, going in sporadically. Like, oh, I'm just going to play a bunch of casual matches, and if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. It's very important to set small goals, even if it's small goals. Like, okay, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to anti-air every jump. I'm going to work on counter hit confirms, stuff like that. Like, that applies outside of the game too. Small goals. Even if I sit down and I'm like, I have to get 2 shirts designed tonight because I want to release these tomorrow. even if I only do one, that's fine. I just have to have a good understanding of that goal when I go into it,
Yeah. A lot of people have something like, I want to get better in Street Fighter, which isn't a bad goal per se, or get better at any kind of skill. But the issue is when it's not defined. Or go ahead.
Right. It doesn't really, like getting better, like that doesn't really mean anything. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, please elaborate.
No, like that's such a nebulous goal, like getting better. Because every day you get better. You learn from what you did the last time you played. If I lose to an Abigail command grabbing me 5 times in a row, like I'm gonna jump the 5th time. That's knowledge that I got from those previous 5 interactions. So like I've gotten better. That's just so nebulous to me. I want small goal where like, okay, I'm not going to let this guy jump on me anymore, or I'm not going to get hit by any command grabs instead of getting command grabbed 5 times in a row.
Right.
It's important for people to set a goal, and I have to say I don't really think rank is that either. Like I hate, as we know, CFN just blows pretty much. It's terrible, and I think people put too much. Sorry if I'm going off on a tangent, but I think people put way too much stock into rank too. I don't know if you know the player Ramos. He's like a Vega player. I think he lives in Florida, and I would say he's probably top 5 Vegas in the United States, and like he's rookie, and like I feel for those players that get him when they first boot up the game, in like a casual match, and he just totally demolishes them. But like, I just think people put too much stock into that stuff because that'll give you gray hair real quick playing ranked in this game.
Oh yeah, especially when your goal is just to literally rank up and not do anything specific.
Yeah, you don't get anything out of stuff like that. Like that's just you're running on a treadmill. There's always going to be more points, even if my goal is like, hey, I'm going to get 500 points tonight. And there's no guarantee you're going to hit that. If you don't hit that, then you're going to beat yourself up. And that's never conducive to growing, beating yourself up or saying, wow, I really sucked tonight. Now, given we're all like that at some point, but it's not conducive to growth.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, if you're beating yourself up, you're wasting time not looking at the things that you've could have potentially learned.
Absolutely.
With what you said about, ranked mode, what do you do to get better?
I love battle lounging. That's my new thing. Not really new, but that's for the past 6 months. Previously, my only goal was to get to Diamond, and then I did that about 1.5 years ago, and I just stopped playing ranked because I'm like, okay, if I sit in this rank, I get anywhere from Ultra Platinum to, Ultimate Grandmaster or Warlord or whatever, if there's any in my region. I get all those people in casual match, and that's fine. I don't need to prove anymore. And then Battle Lounge, for me, I will pick out specific characters that I have issue with. So if I go to a local, we have 2 in my area. 1 I don't go to, but in my defense, it's at my job. So like I have 2 days off a week. I don't want to go to my job on one of my days off. But the other one I go to, so if I go and I lose to, say, an Alex player and probably an M Bison, because we have XDSC Hitman in our local pool here. He's a very good Bison player. I'll come home and I will battle lounge with the strongest player that plays that character that I can possibly think of. And on top of that, I think another thing that's really important that a lot of people don't do is playing against weaker players too. Because we think of like a pool setting. Like when I went to EVO, I went 3-2 at EVO, but my first match was against Nikali, who admittedly I really don't know the matchup that well, but he was significantly weaker than me, and I got lucky because you know how it is in Street Fighter V. You can get outguessed, all day, And then my second match was like an Akuma player, and that's the same thing. Same thing with Akuma. I think he got around on me. I beat him 2-0, but that could have very, very well, even though the guy was weaker than me, that could have very well went in a bad direction with 3 wrong guesses. So I think it's important to play with people that are weaker than you too, just so that you remember like a pool setting. Like you're not gonna always have to fight Cool Kid or Rob TV. You're gonna fight Johnny Bag of Donuts probably first. And if you don't remember how to fight, like, Super Gold Akuma style, you might get caught up. First to 2 is scary, man. First to 2 is really scary now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have learned that the hard way. Oh,
yeah,
man.
That happened to me. That happened to me at KIT. We went to KIT last year, 2018, and they had in that KIT everything was first to 3, and I was salty, man. I was so salty because I lost. My first guy didn't show up, so I got a DQ advance. Then my second guy, I lost to him. I was up 2-0, and then he reverse swept me. And then he had shout outs to Walmart. He's the homie now. But I was so mad. He reverse swept me, and then he went up and told the TOs that I won because he wanted to go eat. I was so mad. I felt so disrespected.
Oh, wow, dang, yeah.
Yeah, I felt so disrespected. But he's a cool dude. We met up at Combo Breaker and we played some sets, but he's a cool dude. But yeah, he's stronger. He was stronger than me at the time, but I eked it out in the first to 2 setting. That stuff is scary. And then he came back and reverse 3-0'd me. So I was pretty mad. But that just goes to show you, like, you can still lose to weaker players just because they're online rank, or you can just underestimate them. First to 2 is quick, real quick rounds.
I'm going to get back on topic because I could go down this rabbit hole for a while, and I think this kind of stuff is fascinating. But I did say I was going to ask, what was the origin of your name?
OcelotYouth. So of course you've played Metal Gear Solid 3, because who hasn't? The OcelotYouth are Ocelot's squad, like the kids. I think they're just called the Ocelot Unit in America, but in the Japanese version they're called the OcelotYouth. The only reason I know that is because on the soundtrack of MGS3, the Ocelot theme is called Confrontation with OcelotYouth.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, and the first time I saw that, man, I was like, God, that's so cool. So I've been OcelotYouth for probably since 2006, 2007. It's been a long time.
Okay, that's sick.
Yeah, love that character.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool character. Just the lore of that character. He's been in almost every Metal Gear, the main 5 series, and even other ones as well. But yeah, he's a cool character. Respect. I like that.
Well, you're Cypher, so you get it, man.
I do get it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Let me see here. Oh, why did you pick Vega and Birdie? Why those characters?
I picked Birdie, like I said, just because I played him in Alpha 2. I didn't care if he was going to be good or not. And, when I first started playing Street Fighter V, I didn't even have a system. I didn't have a PC that can run it. I was playing it at a barcade. Like one of my job's competitors had a PS4 setup with Season 1 Street Fighter V, and I just went. Sarah, my wife, shout out Light Bright JPEG. She worked at the pizzeria that was right next door to this barcade. So I would drop her off, and I would go into this barcade, and I would have a beer, and I would just grind in. Like, I would think I was playing survival mode even at the time, with Birdie. And I was just like, man, this character's so cool. I haven't seen this guy in forever. And then we ended up buying a setup. And, I kind of fell in love with the character. And then to play Vega, I always liked Vega as a character. I just find him really interesting. He's like a serial killer, but he's kind of like Patrick Bateman from American Psycho.
Yeah, that's funny.
He's a cool character to me. But I had no interest in playing him in Street Fighter V. And then we bought a second setup because my wife fell in love with the game. And a little about her, she has never ever played a video game before Street Fighter V. Like,
oh, dang.
Yeah, she just missed it completely. Like, she was into music and stuff growing up and just never got into video games. And I brought her with me to a weekly, and I was like, just try it out. You'll like it. Trust me. She fought me. She's like, no, I don't want to do it. This is boring. And I told her, just try it. It's free. Like, you're not losing anything. And I was playing on a DualShock at the time. I didn't have a stick or anything. And I gave her my DualShock, and she tried it. And I think she picked Jury, just like on a whim, and really fell in love with it. So we had to buy a second setup. And she started with Chun, and then she moved to, I think, Zangief. And she was doing the same thing I was doing, where she was just like playing survival and like just screaming when you get to like the final M Bison in like easy survival or whatever. And I think the second or third to last match is Vega in easy survival. And she was just like, this character is awesome. Like, tell me everything you know about this character. So me being a lore head, I like explained, okay, well, he's a beautiful guy and he hates everything that's ugly. And, she, for some reason, was attracted to that. So she wanted me to train her to play, but I didn't know how to play Vega. So basically to train Sarah, I had to learn Vega. That's how I got wrapped up in this whole Vega mess. And now I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to be known for being a Vega player, at least locally. Like people are like, it's not true, but people on commentary are like, oh yeah, he dropped Birdie for Vega. I'm like, no, I like set play, and I can do set play really easy with Vega.
I gotta say that's some. Hopefully you don't hate this anime, but that's some like high score girl level. Awesome.
Oh, I love High Score Girl.
Okay, good.
Admittedly, I haven't finished it, but okay. I think we're like 3/4 of the way through. No, I got one of my friends to pick me up the High Score Girl shirt from EVA Japan, so I'm really stoked.
I don't remember who it was, but it was someone in top 8. They made it top 8. I remember seeing that shirt. That's sick. Okay.
Yeah, that shirt is great.
So I asked you all about your business, but tell me a little bit about like what kind of designs you currently have in there.
Well, I started. I don't know if you're familiar with like the punk rock scene at all, but they in the kind of DIY scene, they do bootlegs, and bootlegs is a huge thing. And it could be like parody shirts of band tees or anything like that. So that's kind of how I started it out. When I first started it, I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to do some parody shirts of bands that I like. Like my first shirt was a Vega Typo Negative shirt. And then, I don't expect people in the FGC to really know who Typo Negative is. I just want people to see that and be like, damn, that's sick. And I like Vega, so I'm going to buy that. And then I did a Birdie shirt. And the first series, I actually retitled the first series of shirts that I put out called the 50/50 collection. So it's kind of like kind of music, kind of gaming. But as I think I had like 7 or 8 designs, and they were all character specific, and I was kind of just like, these are really narrow. That's such a narrow field. Like, I don't expect every Birdie player to buy the Birdie shirt. And if you're looking at my shop and say you play, God, I don't know, Falk, like there's nothing for you in that shirt, in that shop, because I don't have a Falk shirt. So I kind of wanted to get into a way, I guess, more similar to like Broken Tier, where I was pretty deeply inspired by Broken Tier, and I just want shirts that anyone could pick up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter what character you play. It doesn't even matter what game you play. A shirt that says like "you are free" on it, that's pretty universal.
What's your favorite fighting game?
Favorite fighting game of all time? Jeez, I would say Street Fighter Alpha 2.
Favorite fighting game character of all time?
You know what? I don't want to say Birdie, because I think that's too obvious. Can I give you 3?
Sure. Okay, top 3.
Okay, I'll give you Birdie as one of those.
Cool.
Then I'm going to give you Reptile from Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
And then I'll give you Sodom from Street Fighter Alpha / Final Fight.
Nice.
I'm a big UMK3 head too. I don't think I mentioned that, but I'm huge into MK3.
That's a classic.
Yeah, it's great, man. I can't get enough of it. They have it at our bar, and like I'll clock out from work and literally just go over there and play for like an hour, 2 hours. It's so fun.
Dang, that's crazy. I love how timeless fighting games can be.
Yeah, I mean, I never liked MK3 growing up. I was always a big MK2 head, and it's so much slower. But man, MK3, like if you want to see a game that's like super aggressive, like people talk about like how oppressive the pressure and the rushdown is in Street Fighter 5 with like Ibuki and all that. Like, look at some high level MK3. That stuff is nuts.
Like they make me laugh because of the animations.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
They're so funny. Like, you're just running nonstop and just jabbing nonstop. Like, jab pressure. It's so stupid. It's dumb to even say it. Jab pressure. And it's just like holding block and matching high punch. But it works.
Okay, and then the people want to check out what you're doing, like check out you, or your social media, or your Frame Perfect. Where can they find you?
On Twitter, my Twitter is @OcelotYouth. Frame Perfect's Twitter is Frame Perfect FGC, and that worked out well because it's Fighting Game Club, as the new say. Also on Facebook, just @Frame Perfect, and I think I'm on Instagram too. Although I admittedly don't use Instagram that much, but I'm at Frame Perfect FGC on Instagram also.
Very nice. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, watching the show, guys and girls, trying to be neutral. Make sure you guys leave comments down below. Let us know what you thought about Ocelot's mindset on entrepreneurship, just learning fighting games. Let's get that conversation going. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for stopping by. I appreciate you. And as always, I will see you all in the next one.